Connoisseurs of fine dining and delectable meals are surely aware of the fact that cuisine of Tatarstan is not that ample with dishes as, for instance, French or Mediterranean ones are. Still, there is an absolutely perfect dessert which is definitely worth mentioning and, of course, tasting. Here I am going to tell you about the traditional Tatar sweet named chak-chak. Tatars love their dessert so much that they've even established a museum to honor it. Not far from the bustle of the city center, almost around the corner of the main street, there is a tiny quiet lane where the museum is located. It appeared not long ago and now is sponsored from private sources. A married couple decided to gift such a museum to their beloved city and the guests of it. They bought a two-storied house with a lovely garden around and turned it into a family museum. The place is filled with objects related to the process of cooking the national delight, as well as it provides a chak-chak cooking performance, which is available on request and on booking in advance. While cooking, the host of the event tells interesting facts about the Tatar traditions related to the desserts. For instance, not longer than 100 years ago, it was a rare and thus long-awaited delicacy for average people. Since it requires lots of honey and sugar, which were expensive and unattainable ingredients, the dish was cooked and served only for special occasions, such as weddings. The family had to save up for the wedding, as each one was a veritable feast with up to 100, if not more guests. Can you imagine how much of the food and dessert was required to please the guests? Chak-chak takes a lot of time to cook for such a flock of people. For this reason, all the female members of the family had to put their efforts together to feed the wedding legion. It would take them up to a week to be through with it. The main pride of a hostess was the amount of eggs used in chak-chak. The more the better, surely. Sometimes the amount beat the records, more than 200 eggs. It cried out for dozens of dishes to hold it. The cooking process itself is a pretty simple and short one if you cook a couple of portions. The unleavened dough is made fast with the flour, water and eggs. The one needs to roll it flat and cut into narrow longish strips which are fried in the oil. After the strips sit for a while, the syrup, which is a mixture of sugar and honey, is added. It again takes a while to rest and get glazed, and here we are, chak-chak is ready to be savored. On the wedding day, tables had to be abundant with the delicious meals to show the hospitality of the family, so the guests hardly ever managed to make it up to the dessert. As a rule, the whole amount of chak-chak was introduced to the guests to admire. But since there was no more room for it in the stomachs, it was put as a thank you for coming gift in party bags and handed in upon leaving. And the longer the rumors about the hospitality were buzzing around, the more pleased the family was. The museum itself is a nice example of hospitality, as at the end of the performance, all the guests are treated with the freshly cooked chak-chak and tea, and the host of the ceremony assists the guests with the photos in the authentic traditional interiors. The museum produced the most favorable impression. The only thing to bear in mind is its high popularity. For this reason, the chak-chak ceremony is recommended to be surely booked and preferably in advance.